AD calls game at the American Airlines Center in a big win over the Atlanta Hawks. We'll break it all down. Coming up next on the DLLS Mavs postgame show. Here we go. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks analyst Bobby Carella. We, of course, are DLLS Mavs, your favorite guys covering your favorite team. And AD gets the game winner at the American Airlines Center. And a big win for your Dallas Mavericks over the Atlanta Hawks as they get it done 120-118. We will break it all down here for you over the course of the next hour. We will be joined by our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato, live from the American Airlines Center, and a little bit later on, our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, as well. We appreciate all of you joining us here on DLLS Sports for the DLLS Mavs postgame show as Anthony Davis gets the game winner with 3.4 seconds left, then has the stifling defense on Trae Young, preventing him from hitting a game winner for the Atlanta Hawks for the Mavericks to improve to 38-39 on the year and gain some ground on the Sacramento Kings, who lost tonight on the road to the Washington Wizards. Bobby Carella, what a fantastic finish for a Dallas Mavericks team that blew what was a 12-point lead in the fourth quarter. In fact, the Hawks took a lead, but the Dallas Mavericks made enough plays thanks to Anthony Davis's best game in a Dallas Mavericks uniform.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty and it definitely wasn't perfect, but that is what superstars do. You know, superstars find a way to win you a game. We've seen over the last several years around here, we've seen Dirk do it. We saw Luka do it. At times we've seen Kyrie do it plenty as well. And now we got to see a new one do it. We got to see Anthony Davis do it really for the first time in his time as a Mav. Since coming back from injury, he's been a little shaky. There have been moments, but then there's been long stretches where it's like, what is going on? Does he even feel all right? And then he goes out tonight, and all he does, on a minutes restriction, mind you, is get 34 points, 15 rebounds, 5 blocks, the first Maverick ever to put up that stat line. And how about this? Of the last 10 times that stat line has been achieved in the NBA, in more than 10 years, Anthony Davis has done it 6 of those times.
Wow.
So we should just call that stat line the AD. That's AD what he line. Does, man. He's an absolute Goliath. He's a freak of nature. He was making threes. He was making pull-ups. He was making dunks, throwing down lobs. That game winner was on an awkward runner that he tried the other night and missed. We're like, bro, what the hell is that shot? And then he comes out tonight and hits it, calls game in the final seconds. I mean, it's just an unbelievable performance from that guy.
Team win for this Dallas Mavericks team. I see a lot of you already lauding the performance of Caleb Martin on the defensive end, especially in the second half. We will definitely get to him throughout the course of our show as well. Some other numbers from this game. With the win, the Mavericks improved to 38-39, now 21-17 at the American Airlines Center. The Hawks dropped to what is 36-40 on the year and 17-22 on the road. We mentioned Anthony Davis's monster night with the 34 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 blocks. Klay Thompson, who hit the game-tying three-pointer with 41 seconds left, he finished the game with 17 points. Trae Young had a big night for the Atlanta Hawks, but it wasn't enough as the Mavericks made enough plays down the stretch of what was a defense-optional first half where both teams shot well over 50% in the first half. But one of the things, Bobby, and we'll get into it throughout the course of the show as well, AD setting the tone in the first quarter, being much more aggressive offensively. And that was one of the things that I mentioned during the pregame show is that I wanted to see an aggressive Anthony Davis from the outset. And you saw that from the very beginning. And I thought for him, getting his offensive game going and really getting the Mavericks in a nice rhythm offensively there, I think was huge to get his confidence going. And you saw that just continue to take off as the rest of the game went on.
Yeah, he started out kind of, he got some stuff around the rim, but then he started out mostly taking mid-range, face-up jump shots, turnarounds, things like that. And those are good looks for him because oftentimes he's doing it against a guy that's smaller than him. But it is nice to just sometimes be like, dude, you're like 8 inches taller than the dude on you. Just go dunk.
Yeah.
And it really felt like in the second half they found something there. Now, granted, in the first half, he's playing the first 4 or 5 minute shift with Derek Lively, who he had never shared the floor with. Like, it's kind of hard to believe that that's the first time they played together. So there's very, very little, if any, chemistry between those two. But their second time together in the third quarter is when things really started, kicking into high gear. And how about this? In the second half, the Mavs were 11 of 17 on shots in the paint, so they shot 65% on shots in the lane. The Hawks, meanwhile, 6 of 22, which is 27%. So really starting in the third quarter and then, ultimately with AD finishing it from in the lane, the Mavs bigs were just bullies. I mean, we saw their identity, their desired identity play out tonight. It's just be bigger and stronger and badder and meaner and tougher than the other guys. Be stronger than them, intimidate them, humiliate them, and then whenever push comes to shove, challenge them to stop you, and they shouldn't be able to. That was like the perfect example of what they want to do. Now, can they do it every single night is going to be the challenge, and you're running out of nights to do it. So this isn't like a triumph. They haven't saved the world or changed the trajectory of their franchise or anything, but this is a huge step in the right direction, especially considering what happened the other night against a bad team in Brooklyn.
Yeah, you saw that defense come to light, especially in the second half where they held the Hawks to just 46 points in that second half. Really, midway through that third quarter, the Mavericks defense really started to get going. And one person that we've got to make sure that we praise tonight, and we'll do so throughout the rest of the show as well, Caleb Martin, who, of course, has been dealing with that hip injury. His defense in the second half, whether it be on Trae Young or others, really was able to help the Mavericks defensively get more stops than what they were doing in the first half, because offensively, the Hawks really had their way of scoring 72 points in that first half. But really, especially as I mentioned during halfway through that third quarter, Bobby, the defense started getting ratcheting up, and they finally started to get stops. They were able to hold the Hawks to 24 points in that third quarter, but the trapping of Trae Young, getting after him a little bit more physically as well, and Caleb Martin was a big part of that, and I thought really played well tonight on that defensive end of the floor there.
Yeah, he played well, but I mean, in the second half, AD had 4 blocks. So, it's the way the Mavs are going to play, right, is they don't have too many athletes on the perimeter anymore. This healthy, available right now. PJ's out, Dinwiddie's old, Clay's getting old. Najee's not the quickest guy. Caleb Martin is pretty quick, and he was able to keep up a trade tonight, which is pretty good. But the whole idea is that if and when you get cooked on the perimeter, you're going to have someone behind you. And that's AD, that's Gafford, that's Lively. The Mavs pretty much always had 2 of them on the floor. Kai Jones played a quick shift at the end of the first half. But, that is the beauty of having those guys behind you, is that you can be a little more aggressive. You can take some more chances, away from the rim, because that if you get beat, you got help behind you.
The back end.
And that just has not been the case for much of this season, because so many guys have been in and out of the lineup, but then also because you just have some suboptimal perimeter defenders on the floor, and you don't have always a quality rim protector behind you. But now they do. So they can be a little more aggressive out there, and that I feel like that suits Martin's needs. But I mean, again, that is an anchor of the defense, allowing everyone to play differently. And, for as good as Daniel Gafford was, especially in the stretch leading up to his injury, and for as good as Lively's been really throughout his career whenever he's been healthy, the Mavs have never had a defensive anchor really in their franchise history that's at AD's level. I mean, maybe Tyson Chandler the title year right before he won DPOY with the Knicks, but otherwise, dude, that's really it. I mean, this is like a completely new sight for Mavs fans, and so you're already seeing some of the reaping the benefits of what he can do.
Yeah, and we have never questioned the idea of Anthony Davis, when he's healthy, being one of the best two-way players in the game, and that is always going to be the question for him. But at the same time, he played his best game as a Dallas Maverick by far, with the altering of shots, the shot blocking. Obviously, you saw the variety of his game offensively, whether it be knocking down threes, getting in the mid-range, finishing lobs. He had a beautiful lob finish off of the Klay Thompson pass as well. This was the full AD experience in a lot of different ways, and he was able to provide that on both ends of the floor, similar to how he did in his first game with the Dallas Mavericks against the Houston Rockets, where you saw how he dominated in those 26 minutes of play that he had. This was a lot more similar to that, but also more importantly, he did it when the Mavericks needed him to most, and coming up big with that game-winning shot with 3.5 seconds left to give them the win, leading 6 guys in double figures. And let's give credit to Derek Lively II, who made his return tonight as well after missing the last 36 games with the ankle stress fracture, had been gone since January the 14th. He played his 15 minutes tonight, showing the activity and showing that as he continues to work his way back, you saw how big the Mavericks can play and give Derek Lively an opportunity to be able to get on the floor. And you mentioned it, Bobby, the first time we've seen AD, Lively, and Gafford all together at the same time. For a lot of Mavericks fans who have seen a lot of bad things happen, that was one of the more fun things to finally see that group get together and the chemistry that they need to start to develop in a short amount of time as we move toward the end of the regular season here. Yeah,
it's really important. I mean, even if it's not, the season is lost or whatever, like let's say they lose in the play-in, it's still important to see what these guys can do together moving forward, because these are literally the centerpieces of your team. I mean, AD is your best player, and Lively is probably your most valuable young player. And then Gafford has one more year left, and you're deciding whether you want to extend him. So, I mean, it's really important to see these guys as much as possible. But then also to see if it's even viable. I mean, coming into this game was like, does Atlanta have enough shooting to really punish the Mavs in the same way that the Nets did? The Nets just bombed 53s. They got hot. They won the game. The Hawks tonight took 39, which is fewer, but, they started Ricochet, who was a little gun shy. They started and
yeah,
started.
There it is.
Yes, I mean the second half was one giant start for those guys.
That's right.
But, Mo Gee and Dyson Daniels, and I mean they got some guys. Terrence Mann a little trigger shy, and I just wonder if against teams that really want to let it fly, if the Mavs can play 2 bigs. But again, that's why all of these games matter, because like you need to see them on the floor so that you can make that decision, in June and July.
We have a question in the chat, Bobby.
All right.
Why are y'all wearing the same shirt?
That's a really good question. That is a really good question for those listening on Spotify and iTunes. Kevin and I are both just wearing sand, basically. Like
beige sand.
It's tough. It's tough. It is not on purpose. And we
says who?
It's not on purpose. But hey, we
just know we're here. This is where we are. We're here.
KG's got a really long drive home, so he couldn't go home and change. I'm too lazy to go home and change. So we
thought
decided
I looked
to
damn
stick
good
it out.
coming in here. I wasn't going to change it all. What are you talking about?
Is this a twist top? Oh, that didn't make that much of a sound, but here we go. Cheers.
Cheers to the unnamed beer that Bobby is drinking. But the Mavericks find a way to get it done, and like I said, gain some ground on the Sacramento Kings, who lost on the road tonight to the Washington Wizards. So that means that the Mavericks now up a game and a half on the Sacramento Kings as they look to host the 9-10 play-in game, which will be happening here in actually 2 weeks from today, actually on April the 16th, as the Mavericks look to get themselves locked in to that play-in spot. Interestingly enough, the Mavericks will be off tomorrow before they have a baseball series back-to-back against the Clippers on Friday and Saturday. Another reason why this win is big for the Mavericks tonight. It'll be interesting to see if Anthony Davis plays in both games. I would imagine, just an educated guess, that he would play in one of those 2 games as far as the Clippers are concerned, because I don't think they're necessarily ready to play him on back-to-backs just quite yet.
And probably both bigs too, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be weird. I mean, and I'm sure that we'll show the saddest graphic of all time, maybe in the
Kai
third segment.
Jones graphic a little bit later on.
But we don't need to do it now. I'm riding the high. Let me enjoy it.
I forgot to update it.
So yeah, we got to update it. That's right.
It's fine. I don't need to see it. It made me sad. He dressed tonight, only played 2 minutes. I was actually kind of annoyed that he dressed, but it's way too early in the show to talk about that. We just saw a game winner.
That's right.
Vibes are high. Don't make me mad until at least the 15 minutes from now.
Let's take our first break here on the DLLS Mavs post-game show. When we come back, we'll welcome in our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato live from the American Airlines Center. Plus, we'll discuss the turning point of this game a little bit later on in what was a wild fourth quarter between the Hawks and your Dallas Mavericks. All that and more coming up next here on the DLLS Mavs post-game show. But first, boys and girls, it's time for the American Rodeo taking place on April 11th and 12th at Globe Life Field. Howdy, partners. The Globe Life Field is going to be hosting the richest weekend in rodeo, which returns for 1 weekend only. Don't miss the world's top rodeo athletes compete against the brightest stars in the sport for over $3 million. That's right, in prize money. World champions Haley Kensel, Stetson Wright, Jackie Crawford, and Casey Field return to Globe Life Field with an American rodeo title on the line. They've got the hottest country music stars as well going to be performing that weekend, including Bailey Zimmerman and also Riley Green with special guest Ella Langley as well. Over 150 athletes competing over 2 days for a shot, Bobby, at $1 million at Globe Life Field. So grab your boots and your hat, and we'll see you at Globe Life Field on April 11th and 12th. Back-to-back nights of unmatched competition at the American Rodeo. Friday is the final qualifying round where dreams are made or broken. Then Saturday is the championship round where the best go head-to-head for the ultimate title. 1 weekend, 2 unforgettable nights at the American Rodeo. Go to AmericanRodeo.com to get your tickets today.
Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people, including me. I'm one of them. I have a pair of Shady Rays, and they are awesome. KG, you do too.
That's right.
How good are they?
Amazing.
These are great sunglasses, and they have so many options to choose from. They're polarized. You can get color rush. You can get any sort of make, model, shape, size, and even color. They probably got shades in your favorite team's color, whether that's the Mavs, whether that's the throwback Mavs, whether that's some other team that plays in Dallas.
The Cowboys?
I would wear some Stars Shady Rays.
Oh, okay.
I don't know about Cowboys Shady Rays right now. But they have so many options to choose from, and if anything bad happens to them, they got the best protection in all of eyewear. So what are you waiting for? Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the year. Head to shadyrays.com. Use code DLLS for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Appreciate all of you joining us here on the DLLS Mavs post-game show where Oscar says I should wear this hat on every show.
I agree.
You agree with that?
You might as well, dude.
Tanner, what do you think? Should I wear this hat on every show?
Yes.
Okay. I think I'll leave it on for tonight. Yeah. All right. Mavericks get it done 120-118 over the Atlanta Hawks. Anthony Davis's monster night, 34 points, 15 rebounds, 5 blocks. Our guy Bobby Carella letting us know that that's never been done before in a Mavericks uniform. So historic night. Also the game winner with 3.5 seconds left to save Bobby what was a dramatic fourth quarter, which we get to in our Mavericks turning point in this postgame show.
Oh my God, it was full of them.
Because Spencer did what he did his best to give this game away in the last minute and a half or so, or last 2.5 minutes, I should say.
Need a drink.
But Klay Thompson knocking down a three-pointer to tie it at 118 with 41 seconds left. Some good defense by the Mavericks, including what Anthony Davis was able to do and keeping Trae Young from knocking down what would have been a game-winning three-pointer after he got the go-ahead bucket himself. But let's just think about it. Let's go 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Bobby. The Mavericks are up, check this out, 108-96 with 10 minutes left, and they had used a 7-0 start in that fourth quarter to really get things started. In fact, that would continue what was a 10-0 run after what was back-to-back three-pointers that were made by Jaden Hardy or Anthony Davis and Jaden Hardy to close the third quarter. The Mavericks got off to a nice hot start. You're thinking, oh man, they're up 12 with 10 minutes to go. Hopefully this is not a repeat of what happened just a couple of nights ago when they were up 10 with 8 minutes to go against the Brooklyn Nets and blow that. They wound up blowing that lead as the Hawks went on what was a 22-7 run to eventually take what was a lead, but the Mavericks made the plays down the stretch and getting you back in good graces with this team when it comes to finishing games down the stretch. Because for a second there after Monday, we're like, hey, maybe we'll put the brakes on the idea of them finishing games. They found a way, and AD was the catalyst for that.
Yeah, I mean, it is 2 games in a row, though, that it kind of the last minute became a coin flip. And
yeah.
You don't want to get in those coin flip games. So, blowing the lead was really rough. Atlanta went on that run despite going more than 4 minutes without a made field goal.
That's right.
So, I mean, it's not like they just got hot real quick. That was a very long, protracted run. Yeah, but it was a lot of the same stuff that happened the other night. The other night against Brooklyn, the Mavs were 2 of 8 from 3 in the fourth quarter. Klay himself took 4 of them and bricked, I believe, all of them. Maybe he made 1. And then in this game, the Mavs started the fourth quarter 1 of 8 from 3. And it's like, dude, you got to be able to make jump shots.
Mm-hmm.
But then luckily Clay made the one, and that one was huge. Even though it was off a broken play, I mean, that's not what was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But he stepped up and made it. It was a great shot. So down the stretch, they got some stuff to learn. Now, it is their first couple times closing games with AD, and Dinwiddie being the guy, and then not Brandon Williams, and Jaden Hardy was getting in there, and part of it was with Gafford, and part of it was without Gafford. And it's like, all right, so who is out here? And normally by now you kind of have your closing lineup settled. The Mavs clearly don't, because a lot of these guys are playing their first game together, or their second game together in some cases. Here's a good illustration of why continuity matters so much, KG. And a lot of this matters down the stretch too, but just in general. The Hawks, pretty similar record to the Mavs, pretty similar standing in their own conference to the Mavs. So since February 10th, which is right after the trade deadline, that weekend, or the week after the trade deadline, the Hawks have had the same starting lineup in every single one of their games except for 3 times. And in each of those 3 games, only one of their normal starters were out. Gee missed 1, Trey missed 1, and then Gee actually missed 2. So it was Barlow 1 time, K. Wallace 1 time, and V. Krejci 1 time. Okay, so that's like 25 games with essentially 1 starting lineup.
Yeah.
The Mavs, meanwhile, since February 10th, have only had the same starting lineup 2 games in a row, twice.
Oh, jeez.
Twice.
In fact, tonight was their 44th different starting lineup tonight, did the Dallas Mavericks have.
And, the starting lineup is not always a reflection or indication of the closing lineup, but oftentimes the closing lineup is just the starting lineup, for the most part it is. But the Mavs have had no semblance of continuity. Whenever your best player before the trade deadline was your point guard, and your best player for a long time after the trade deadline was your point guard. Now, neither of those guys is available. It doesn't matter if everyone else is the same. Your offense is going to be totally different. But now you're trying to incorporate a post player that can also kind of bring up the floor, playing without a center. And then now you're going to incorporate that guy at the same time as a center. And then now you're going to do it with a different center. And then now you're going to do it without PJ. Now you're going to do it with PJ. Now you're going to do it without Clay. Now you're going to do it with Clay. It's changing all the time. So, on the one hand, it's a good thing that the plan isn't tomorrow, so that they still have another week or 2 to figure some of this stuff out. On the other hand, it would have been real sick if this stuff was happening in February, so that by now it's kind of second nature. Because closing games is a skill, and it's kind of something you have to learn together. Now, granted, this AD game winner and the Clay kind of Hail Mary 3 to tie it, and then getting a couple defensive stops in a row to seal the deal, that could be, like a turning point for them as a team. It could be like, it could be like a little confidence boost. Could be, just help everyone relax a little bit, so that the next time you are on the receiving end of a 22-7 run, you fight back sooner. But there's only one way to find out.
Yeah, and you've got a handful of games to be able to do it, starting on Friday with the Los Angeles Clippers. I thought the defense, especially starting midway through that third quarter, really turned the game around. Anthony Davis was a monster in terms of his shot deterrence, his shot blocking, and what they were able to do to start to funnel the Hawks players down to be able to have him make some plays down there. What did you see in terms of what changed defensively for the Mavericks? We noticed there was a little bit of trapping that was going on with Trae Young, trying to get the ball out of his hands a little bit, make other guys be able to make plays. Was that some of the things that helped turn that around in that third quarter? Was there something else that you noticed from a tactical standpoint that they changed up after giving up 72 points in the first half that really got them to lock down, only giving up 24 points in that third quarter there?
Yeah, I don't know, man, because the first half was so many turnovers by the Hawks, and then they really cleaned that up. In the second half, some of it was just missing threes. Some of it was, the Mavs just started leaving guys open. But Dyson Daniels, to his credit, knocked a couple down. Krejci got super hot. And I think that was in the third quarter, right? Or was that in the fourth quarter? At any rate, it was in the second half. So, they were taking some gambles. And the Hawks made them pay on that. But a lot of it, again, was just defending the lane. It was just protecting the rim. 84 blocks. There were a lot of times where, they weren't switching onto Trae, but they weren't necessarily switching AD or Gafford or Lively onto Trae, but somehow a small would end up on Okongwu, but they were able to rotate in some of those situations. Okongwu missed a couple point blank looks, which certainly helped the Mavs, especially early in the fourth quarter. But they did switch AD onto Trae with the game on the line.
They did.
And that was, I'm sure that it happened at one point during this game, but that's the only time I can remember that AD was defending Trey in space like that, and it was 4-game. You know, and Trey tried to shake him and couldn't, so he settled for a step back, and AD got out there. And I mean, Trey shot that thing like 100 feet in the air. He could not get on top of that shot. AD was right in his face. So, you know, I don't know if I want AD doing that 100 times a game.
Yeah, for sure, especially with the injury that he's dealing with right now.
Yeah, but situationally, if he can do it 5 or 10 times, and then as you incorporate Lively into it, if Lively can do you know, plays more minutes and starts feeling better, if he can do that 10 or even 20 times a game, or sometimes even more, then like, oh my God, now you can like switch 1 through 5 pretty frequently, and you don't have to give up stuff. You don't have to leave shooters open. You can shrink the floor and you can pack the paint and do all these things like once penetration happens, but you don't have to like start the possession offering your opponent a 5-on-4, you know, or an open corner 3. And the Mavs oftentimes will just leave guys in the corner open. And sometimes that could work if those guys miss or if the ball doesn't find them. But wouldn't it be great if you could build a defensive system where that never happened? And AD, whenever he's totally healthy, and Lively, whenever he's totally healthy, are 2 7-footers that can absolutely do that stuff on a nightly basis.
Yeah, and you saw that happen in the third and fourth quarters where the Mavericks only gave up a total of 46 points in the second half to the Atlanta Hawks, despite the Mavericks only scoring 19 points in that final period. They held the Hawks to 22, and they were able to hang on in the win. And obviously, the plays that were made down the stretch, whether Klay Thompson knocking down the 3 to tie, obviously Anthony Davis's game winner. What I enjoyed most, especially from Anthony Davis's standpoint, not only just the aggressiveness that he had to begin the game, but he continued to stay with it and find ways to affect the game on both ends of the floor. And for a superstar having that kind of seminal moment after what has been a tumultuous last couple of months, regardless of where this season goes, him having that moment tonight, I think, is huge for him as one of the emerging leaders on this team to be able to come up big for his team, not just throughout the course of the game, but in crunch time, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show. For him to have that moment, I think is really good for him and this team, just given what they've gone through, to be able to have a moment in front of this crowd as well, to be able to not just keep their season alive in some ways, but just going forward, what this does for him being a leader on this team.
Yeah, man, that's just got to feel – AD has got to feel so good.
Yeah, for
after
sure.
that game winner.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long road back for him. And obviously, it was not his choice to be traded here. It was not his choice to be traded for Luka Doncic, to be involved in what is considered to be the worst trade of all time, or certainly the worst trade in recent memory, like in professional sports. And, you know, that alone kind of put a target on his back. And then in his first game, he plays great and then gets hurt and misses a month and a half. And that made it even worse. You know, now all of a sudden people are clowning him for stuff that's not really under his control. I mean, he had to feel awful. He had to be mad. He had to be upset. He had to be really frustrated. And then he comes back and isn't totally great for the first week and a half or so that he's been back. It's been up and down. I mean, the last game against Brooklyn, he only had like 12 points or something. Like, he was kind of mid. And then tonight he just comes out and beats their ass and hits a game winner, and then gets the game-saving block into a game-saving switch contest. Forced a terrible shot. Like, he dominated tonight, especially in the second half. That's just got to be such a relief for him, such a load off his shoulders, and hopefully that can kind of, you know, again, not only give himself a lift moving forward, but the rest of the team, because he is their best player.
Yeah.
He is one of the best players in the NBA. He is not on the same level as a guy like Luka, you know, but much like Luka, much like Kyrie, whenever you have one of those guys and they're playing like that, you always have a chance to win. It does not matter who you're playing against, and it doesn't really even matter how many of the other guys on your team are playing. Like, when you got one of those dudes playing like AD was tonight, you are going to have a really, really good chance to win. And so if he can be that guy every night, why not? You know, let's see how far it goes.
Yeah, and he said during the post game in his interview with Jeff Skinway that, you know, been dealing with a little bit of mental stuff over the course of the week, and that can go to what you were talking about in the game on Monday as well, not playing necessarily well. But he came in with a mindset that he was going to be aggressive from the outset and really got his shot going. But more importantly, the defense setting the tone for what this team needed to do to be able to find a win, and then to do it down the stretch when they needed to most, being led by Anthony Davis. That's huge for this team as they get ready for the last 5 games of the regular season beginning on Friday with the Los Angeles Clippers. Let's take our next break here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show. When we come back, we'll welcome in our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato, live from the American Airlines Center, and a little bit later on, we'll hear from our national NBA insider, Marc Stein as well. All that and more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs postgame show.
Just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get just that. We've all been to those big box stores, and it's always really frustrating. There's so many aisles, you have no idea where anything is, and people that are in flooring, whenever you're there, yesterday they were doing light bulbs, the day before they're trying to sell you a bath, and tomorrow they're probably going to be selling you a lawnmower, and it's like you need people that are going to specialize in your floor, because the floor is one of the few things that you use every single day in your home. You don't always use all of your appliances, all your lawn equipment, all this stuff, but every single step you take is on a floor. And Empire Today, they live, sleep, eat, and breathe floors. That is what they're all about. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home, too. You can pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space. You can see how it looks with your furniture in your house, and you can schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DLLS listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code DLLS, a $350 discount with code DLLS. Visit empiretoday.com/DLLS for details.
Owning property can be tough. I'm a homeowner, and it can be tough, especially when you get that dreaded letter in the mail letting you know that you got to pay property tax for the past year. Ownwell comes in and can help you take care of all that, and you can do it in as less than 3 minutes. Owning property can be coming with plenty of challenges, but Ownwell believes when it comes to paying property tax, you should only pay what's fair. Ownwell customers, 86% of Ownwell's customers have an average savings of over $1,100 when it comes to paying their property tax. They handle everything from start to finish and delivers top results, and there's no upfront costs as well, so you only pay if you save, so you can put property tax money back in your pocket in just minutes. The deadline to protest is May 15th for most counties, so save money on your property taxes with Ownwell. Let's sign up in less than 3 minutes and start your protest today at ownwell.com/DLLS. That's OWNWELL.com/DLLS today. Let's go out live to the American Airlines Center and welcome in our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato. You can find him on X at Tim_Cato as the Mavericks get it done 120-118. Anthony Davis's game winner with 3.5 seconds left. Then the defense on Trae Young, preventing him from hitting a potential game winner, delivers the Mavericks their 38th win of the season. And Anthony Davis was a monster on both ends of the floor and by far his best game as a Dallas Maverick.
Yeah, for sure. He said, left the game, got some stitches, came back in, played. That is the Anthony Davis that, we've been waiting for, that Dallas has been waiting for. I thought it was really interesting in his post-game press conference. He talked about after his post-game nap, he decided, and I think you mentioned it, that in his walk-off interview, he had been dealing with some, mental blocks. And he said today, he just decided he wasn't going to worry about that. Wasn't going to worry about all the health stuff. He said he's, been pain-free and, but still has been cautious about this injury. And what he said was, this pregame nap, I don't know what about that, caused him to have a revelation, but said he was going to go out there and play and whatever happens is the exact quote from him.
And he played like a man who was carefree tonight and setting the tone in that first quarter. 13 points, going 4-7 from the field. But the defense, especially in the second half, holding the Hawks to 46 points. Really midway through that third quarter, they started getting stops after the Hawks scored 72 points in that first half. What did you see from your vantage point and how the Mavericks were able to really start to shut things down against the Atlanta Hawks offense in the second half there?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the defense to the peak of what Dallas envisioned. Certainly there were still rocky moments. Overall, it was the numbers, the pure raw numbers were inflated because this was a very high possession game. Still, it was an average outing. It was about a league average defensive performance. But I thought you saw it in moments, and certainly Dallas consistently had big, tall players at the rim, and that helps. That matters in the NBA. And the Hawks were a team that, did consistently keep trying to get to the rim. They did not, bow out or decide they weren't going to challenge. And more often than not, I thought Dallas was the team coming out ahead. And, that is the calculation of this team with this many big men, with this much defense and rim protection, is that, they're going to clearly win the advantage in that area. And, I thought you saw it. Atlanta shot 41% at the rim. 41. That is a very, very low number. That is about as low as you're ever going to see in the NBA. So, again, it wasn't overall, a spectacular defining, trade defining, era defining, defensive performance from the Mavericks, but you started to see it.
Oh, it's my turn.
Yes, it is.
Here I am stalling for time while I think of a question.
I'll just keep going. You want me to just keep going, Bob?
No.
I hate to see you like this.
No, second half, their defensive rating was great, under 96, which is pretty awesome. Getting a lot of rim protection, a lot of good stuff there, which is nice to see. Thoughts on how Lively was moving? Thoughts on if Daniel Gafford, last game he got his knee run into. Today he got hit where the sun don't shine. Will there be a game where Gafford, his lower body doesn't get hurt, where AD doesn't need stitches, and where Lively is healthy? Like what's all of their health situations right now?
You're expecting this season to offer some health relief?
I'm hoping.
Well, they couldn't even avoid friendly fire for a second because Gafford put an elbow into Anthony Davis's eye socket.
Not for the first time this year. Was it Dwight Powell and who was the other player in the Dwight Powell collision earlier this year?
Max Christie, wasn't it?
Was it Max Christie?
I don't remember. Anyway, the Daniel Gafford injury in the last game was not an issue. That was never an issue. There was, Daniel Gafford would be the first to say that, it was something he needed to walk off, but it was not a injury that whatsoever compromised him from playing basketball, or at least like endangered him for playing basketball. I honestly, it felt like we barely saw Lively out there. Like, it was great to see him in the moments, but that was such a short stretch that I'm just excited to see more Derek Lively, but seemed like he was moving fine to me. I don't know. Maybe it looked different on the broadcast. I don't know if that was a question that, had some backing to it, or like you guys felt like.
No, he looked fine.
No? Yeah.
He looked fine.
Yeah. I thought he looked normal. When it comes to the injuries and minutes restrictions, which is a important part of this whole thing, Anthony Davis said that every game from here on out, he expects that minute total to go up by a couple minutes. It's 32 tonight, so 34 the next game. And so he expects that by the play-in tournament, he will be fully ready to go for whatever the team needs.
Wow. My only other question, and this is more of an observation. How about this? I will tell you what I think, Tim, and then you tell me if you agree or disagree. I think it is really, really important that the Mavs do everything they can. Kind of the one missing piece from the fourth quarter stuff that we were just talking about last segment. They need to do everything they can down the stretch. And I'm trying not to be just a complete jerk whenever I say this, but got to get it out of Dinwiddie's hands early in the shot clock. A lot of those possessions died on the vine. He took that inexplicable pull-up three. He bricked two free throws or two layups in a row.
Yeah,
just really, really rough. And But on the flip side, it looked like they were pressing for a time to force it into AD, and AD was like 22 feet from the rim. It didn't really look like he knew what to do, so he just went into a handoff with Clay, and Clay, threw up that three, which fortunately went in. But it really does it looks like they're kind of working through some stuff.
On the flip side, Dinwiddie clearly rubbed off on Trae Young on the last few possessions as well.
True.
So you could argue that if you're going to get, Spencer Dinwiddie is playing above his role. He shouldn't be, the lead initiator closing games at this point of his career. But that is the situation Dallas has unfortunately found themselves in. They don't have Kyrie Irving. A lot of people in the locker room talked about how desperate, how badly they want to make the playoffs, how this is the goal of the team. Klay Thompson said, they want to give Kyrie a reason to work so hard this summer because he sees that this team is working so hard to succeed. I don't disagree, but that's who Spencer Dinwiddie is. Unfortunately, he is just not, you're asking him unfair questions. You're asking him to do things that, the team didn't expect or, really has no choice but to ask him. So in that sense, I disagree. But yeah, if he just rubs off on, if he's contagious and every single lead point guard on the other team also ends up doing the same thing, I don't know. Maybe that'll work.
Our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato joining us live from the American Airlines Center after the Mavericks get it done 120 to 118. Let's start to look ahead, obviously, with this team now having gotten the win over the Atlanta Hawks tonight. They have a day off tomorrow before they play the Los Angeles Clippers in back-to-back games on Friday and Saturday. You just mentioned how Anthony Davis feels like he's going to get more and more minutes in these games as it goes on. What are your thoughts on the idea of him playing in both games against the Los Angeles Clippers? Are they prepared to potentially play him on a back-to-back, or is it more so precautionary, play him in one of the two games in Los Angeles and then have him get ready for the Lakers game next Wednesday?
I mean, now that you say that, that would have been a great question to ask. We asked about the minute restrictions, and that we should have asked him that, but we did not. So I don't know. It's not really. I mean, I try not to answer medical questions to, I don't know. It's kind of up to the team to have a good sense of whether he should be playing in a back-to-back or not. Certainly in the context that this was the first game he was playing, he felt, in his own words, that he was physically playing free since returning from injury, but also that he said, whatever happens. It certainly, I clocked that quote, and it probably doesn't mean anything. It's probably just the term he used, but it was very nice to see this version of Anthony Davis. It was not surprising that he essentially confirmed, he wasn't, we saw him as, even in the, especially in the first game he came back, he was, that was not a dynamic athlete, and he was still, solid against Brooklyn. But I think that's still a big question. How often can he do this? Is this the Anthony Davis they're going to get from now to the end of the season? Is this, can he do it in back-to-back games? That's also the question. I don't think that, if he has to go back to some more physically limited version of himself because of, mental concerns about the injury or whatever it is, and if that's who he's going to be on the second night of a back-to-back, then no, he shouldn't be out there. But it's hard stuff to know. And so, it's a very good question, and the Clippers are a very good team, and it's not guaranteed. Certainly not guaranteed. It'd be tough to beat them with Anthony Davis. You'd love to see him out there for both of them. But also with the way the standings are increasingly falling, you have to have some level of confidence that, Dallas doesn't need both games. In fact, even if they dropped both, it's not ideal, but it's a situation that I still expect this team to be in the play-in tournament. Be much better, much nicer if the team finished 9th and hosted that first game, though.
Yeah, teams 9, 10, and 11 aren't necessarily acting like they want to get either the 9 or 10 spot. Because if the Mavericks had not won tonight's game, we would be talking about the 9, 10, and 11 teams being collectively on a 9-game losing streak after the Kings loss to the Wizards tonight. But the Mavericks handled business to make sure that losing streak was broken as they get ready to play the Clippers on Friday and Saturday. Tim, as always, we appreciate your time and your reporting from the American Airlines Center on this night. We will talk to you tomorrow on our regular show at 12 p.m. right here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. We appreciate your time, man.
See y'all then.
Bye, Tim.
That is our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato reporting live from the American Airlines Center. Mavericks get it done 120 to 118. Anthony Davis's game winner with 3.5 seconds left gets it done for the Mavericks on a monster night, 34-15 and 5 blocks for the man in the middle for your Dallas Mavericks. Let's take our final break here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show. When we come back, we will welcome in our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, live from the AAC as well. His thoughts on tonight's game as we look ahead to the Mavericks getting ready to take on the Clippers on Friday and Saturday. All that more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs postgame show.
But first, it's Die Hard time. Let me tell you about 3 of my new best friends. Wendell, Joel, and Jonathan. Those 3 all signed up to become diehards just yesterday.
Let's go.
And when each of them signed up, here's what they got.
Okay.
They got a free shirt. They got
Free
to
shirt.
choose which kind. It wasn't assigned to them. They got to choose
Kind of like us,
which kind of. We got almost 40 shirts to design, and I've seen some specs for some new ones that are coming out. They look pretty cool. About other teams, we're working on some Mavs stuff.
The Rangers wasn't hot right now because the Rangers are hot with themselves.
Yeah,
Let's
no,
go.
the Rangers just refuse to allow any runs right now. It's
Let's
pretty
go.
great, actually. The Rangers postgame show earlier today was a fun time. So they got a free shirt.
Mm-hmm.
They got to join the DLS Die Hard Discord Lounge. That's
Fire.
pretty cool. It's a great place to go hang out.
Talking pro
when
wrestling.
you sign up, you get a link to join. Full of fellow diehards, full of all the talent here at DLS. All the producers were all in there just mixing it up every day. Really fun place to hang out. Stars Discord is
Fire right now.
completely just out of control.
Unhinged.
Out of control constantly. They also get to read the website, alldls.com, which is where you can go to be a diehard, or you can scan the QR code there, click the link in the description below.
Got some
Get
banging
to read
content.
all that premium paywalled written stuff. All the
Mhm.
Clarence Hill is out following Jerry Jones around the country right now, getting everything that those dudes are saying that
The
they
exclusives.
just will not stop talking about how they don't know about what it means to negotiate with power agents.
We kind of know something about that around here.
Yeah, and unfortunately. And Clarence is you know,
He's
keeping
killing
track
it,
of all
man.
that. And also we got the Cowboys 100 right now for all you draft freaks out there that are like me. The best piece of information that you will have about the Cowboys this spring. There are so many reasons, like Oscar says. You get your physical diehard card too. You can carry it around, sport that thing, flaunt it to everyone you know. It makes you more attractive, more interesting, more successful. It makes you just more cool as a person at this juncture. So thank you all for your support that have signed up. And yeah, back to the show.
We salute you. We salute you.
Indeed.
Let's go back out to the American Airlines Center and welcome in our national NBA insider. You can always dial up the Stein
Marc
line
Stein!
at the Stein line. He is, of course, Dapper Stein. Marc Stein. Mark, what's going on?
Hi, guys.
Wow, you sound full. You sound... It is a great sound, Mark.
You sound good. You look good.
Yeah.
I see that. I see the hat is back.
Yep. Go get your tickets, AmericanRodeo.com on April 11th and 12th.
That's
Globe Life
right.
Field. A lot of money on the line.
One
Speaking-
more slight adjustment. Let's see. Let's.
Oh, there it is. Oh, you're good. You're
All right,
centered.
now-
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Now we're better. We're better.
Anthony Davis, absolute monster tonight. 34.
You guys see the mic right there? You see
We
there's
do
a
see
mic
it.
right there.
Yeah,
We do.
see
It's
the
incredible.
microphone.
It's incredible.
That's right. 34, 15, and 5 for Mr. Davis in the middle. Best game as a Dallas Maverick by far. We had a speed run of the entire Anthony Davis experience, including the bad parts in his game against the Rockets. We had all the experience of AD and the non-injury portion of it. He was spectacular tonight against the Atlanta Hawks.
Nah, tremendous. I mean, he checked every box. I will tell you, though, on that last possession, he got slammed into the scorer's table right in front of me. And it made a loud sound. And you couldn't really see what was happening on the court. And, you know, took a few seconds there for them to lift him up and him to walk off the court in celebratory fashion. But no, he was a monster tonight. I mean, you guys, I can only imagine the Corellustrator reveling in that kind of performance.
No.
No, he was great. It was a weird game. He was great though. But Mark, I mean, you've been covering this team for a long time and you know, covering the NBA obviously at large for a really long time. And you know, one point I made earlier is, you know, that's what superstars do. First off, AD just put on his cape and said, "I'm dragging y'all, you know, to the finish line. You coming with me or not? Either way, I'm going there." But also, I mean, he plays defense, a style of defense, you know, rim protection and versatility and flexibility and all these things that Mavs fans have just never seen outside of maybe Tyson Chandler during the title season. But I mean, really at no other point have the Mavs just had this dominant big, bad, strong, tall dude that can also step out on the perimeter. Like, there's just never really been a guy like him in Dallas before. So this is like, it's a totally new experience for me to see too.
There's never been a 5-man like him, never been a center like him. And look, he loves playing with another big next to him. I asked him that after the game. And, because he talked about, first he was asked, Mac Engel from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram asked him, are you guys playing what if in your head? Like, when this team's playing well, how hard is it to resist thinking about what it would be like if you had Kyrie and you didn't have all these injuries and this team could play to its full capacity? And he said, I almost just pulled the whole mic system down, by the way. Luckily, I think I avoided it. He said that he said they're trying not to play what if, because there's no good that can come from that. But he did say, then I asked him just about playing with Gafford or Lively next to him, and he's clearly loving that. He says it allows him to almost operate like a free safety, and we know that when he's right, he is a very mobile big man who can cover a lot of ground, can cover almost every position. And it's interesting, Jason Kidd talked about how first they went zone to slow Trae Young up after Trae Young was really having his way in the first half. But at the end, there was a lot of Caleb Martin on Trae Young, but also they knew that they could be very comfortable switching and having AD switch onto Trae Young and feeling pretty good about how it would work out. And that's what we saw at the end.
Big time win for the Mavericks in the fashion in which they did, with Anthony Davis getting, of course, the game winner with 3.5 seconds. So Klay Thompson hitting the game tying three after the Mavericks gave up what was a 22-7 run that allowed the Hawks to.
Did you guys tell me the truth? Did you guys like that shot when it left Klay's hands?
No.
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 Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just because I'm a Klay devotee, as you know. It was a quick release and he was not set, but
that is kind of what he does, though. Isn't it, really,
it was very Clayish, and he drained it. Nothing but cord.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, that's what Klay does, man. He knocks down big shots. He's done so throughout the entirety of his career. Obviously, Derek Lively made his return tonight as well. Real quick, what did you think of Lively in his 15 minutes that he played tonight, as we saw for the very first time all three big men together on the floor with Anthony Davis, Derek Lively II, and Daniel Gafford, and that triumvirate making their debuts together?
I mean, look, it was just great to see Derek Lively back. I mean, he's, he always is just a burst of energy. I mean, this is not directed at D-Live, but just the first half defense was stunningly bad for what we would expect from this team with the personnel that has come back now. But, they won. They found a way in the second half. They played good defense when they had to at the end. And you look at what's going on with Sacramento and Phoenix right now.
We are going to get to it for sure. Yes.
And this is getting interesting, gentlemen. I mean, and interesting being a relative term compared to what this team was expected to do coming into the season. But look, you can imagine a scenario where they beat Sacramento in the 9-10 game. What happens if they get the sliding, fading Memphis Grizzlies in the 8-9 game in Memphis for a winner-take-all first-round series against the Oklahoma City Thunder? The Mavs might not have much in the way of guard play right now. I'm not sure I'm picking the Memphis Grizzlies to win that game, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and there will be some, potentially some interesting shenanigans, because game 82 of the year, of course,
right.
The Mavs play at the Grizzlies.
That's right.
And so, that could be, hey, why don't we just let them win kind of thing? Or no, we should really try and beat them, or, we'll see.
Good friend of yours, Bobby Marks, had a very interesting tweet as the night went on. The three teams, Dallas, Sacramento, Phoenix, vying for the last two play-in spots. Again, this was before the Mavericks won. Had now lost 8 straight games it would have increased to 9 if the Mavericks would have lost tonight. As you mentioned, the Kings went on the road and lost in our nation's capital to the Washington Wizards tonight. They seem like they're not acting like they want the final play-in spot. Phoenix, their season has pretty much been shot to hell now that Kevin Durant is going to be missing the next week with an ankle injury. And the Mavericks before tonight just lost to Brooklyn. So 9, 10, and 11, not exactly playing inspiring basketball as we get in the final week of the regular season here.
As much as Bobby hates the play-in, which I think we're going to deal mostly with tomorrow. I think we should save that
I got time.
for tomorrow.
I got time, Mark.
Yes.
But imagine how much he's going to hate the play-in if the Mavs, as the 9th seed, were not able to capitalize against either number 10 Sacramento or number 10 Phoenix. Whoever is in that number 10 spot, the Mavs better win that first play-in game, because both of those teams are just, they look a mess, is putting it charitably.
I mean, they should. The Mavs should, because I mean, assuming that AD is healthy, the Mavs would have the best player in the game.
Yeah.
Whether it was against the Kings or even the Suns.
Or the Suns at this rate.
There's a really good chance that AD's playing at at least as at high a level as Booker.
You guys might have gotten into this with Tim when he did Cato's corner, but that was something else that AD talked about tonight post game, that I think he kind of was acknowledging that he was playing too passive, and that certainly is how it looked in the Brooklyn game. And he just finally decided today to say, you know what, I just got to let it go. Like, I got to get out of my own head and just, play, whatever the consequences. And, he played with a lot of zip. I mean, there was one loose ball he dove for on the far sideline opposite me that there was no reason to even get on the floor for it, because the ball was basically out of bounds when he made the dive, but he did anyway. So, I mean, encouraging / scary. I guess it's always scary because, he's had so much stuff happen, but I think mostly encouraging to see him flying around and throwing himself all over the floor tonight.
And as we look forward, I mean, things are shaping up really kind of interesting and dramatic in the final week of the season. I mean, one of the more inexplicable losses tonight, I guess not inexplicable because the Nuggets decided to sit all their starters. They lost at home tonight to the San Antonio Spurs. So that means as of now, the Nuggets have dropped to the 4 seed, putting the Lakers in the 3 seed at this moment. And you look at teams 6 through 10. Memphis is now in the 6th spot. Minnesota 7. The Clippers at 8. The Mavericks at 9. And the Kings at 10. Shaping up to be a dramatic final week of the regular season with teams jockeying for position, given what these teams are trying to achieve right now. I'm sure that you will be loving this last week of the season because there's a lot of intrigue in the final week here.
Yeah, I mean, the West race, that's really where the intrigue is just seeing kind of how the seeds are going to line up. And yeah, on tomorrow's show, I guess Bobby and I will have a long discussion about the merits of the play-in tournament. Will the hat make its appearance tomorrow as well?
I mean, if we're talking about American rodeo, you bet your bottom dollar we're going to have it on. That's for damn sure. That's right.
Darn tootin'.
That's right.
I'm trying to think, was there anything else that I needed to get into with you gentlemen?
Well, we're up against the 59er.
Yeah, you can save it for tomorrow.
Fast Channel 59 alert.
That's right. That's right. Mark, we appreciate you, man. Good to see you. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the DLLS Mavs podcast, man. Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll do it then. Talk soon.
Get your Dukes ready for tomorrow, Mark.
That's our National NBA insider, Marc Stein, going to join us here on our show. That's going to do it for us here on the DLLS Mavs post-game show as the Mavericks get it done 120-118. Anthony Davis's game winner with 3.5 seconds left gets it done for the Mavericks to improve to 38-39 on the year. They have the day off tomorrow before they go on the road for not 1 but 2 games, Marc Stein, in a baseball series against the Los Angeles Clippers on a back-to-back. We'll get you ready for that as we will have our regular show tomorrow at 12 p.m. right here on DLLS Sports. We appreciate our guy Tanner making us look good and sound good as always. Appreciate you, sir. We thank you to our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato for reporting live from the American Airlines Center as well. That's our Mavericks analyst, Bobby Carella. I'm your host, Kevin Gray. We are DLLS Mavs. We will talk to you tomorrow at 12 p.m. right here on DLLS Sports. Mavericks get it done, 120-118, thanks to Anthony Davis's big-time night. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 12 p.m. Y'all be good. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.